have a pretty deep lexicon, I like to use a different word sometimes. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ecstatic.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love that. But like just that high energy. I share the same excitement to be sitting here speaking with you today. Um, in our pre-conversation yesterday, I definitely left feeling full and inspired after learning about just the Mandem Cycling Club and yourself,
nice,
your journey. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to be chatting it up with you.
nice. I'm happy to hear that.
Yay. So I guess like I guess I just want to dive into it and really talk about, Mandem, what it is. It's a cycling club, and when I think about cycling, and I don't think about Mandem. I
That's
don't
probably the last thing that comes to mind for a
I
lot of
do
people.
not put them together, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, like I found that when I came across your community and the movement that you have been building, I was definitely intrigued. Like, obviously, the name stood out, but then even more like inspired and curious after just looking at your profile pages and just seeing some of the press that's been covered on you and how diverse the community is. I think
Hmm.
that is something that definitely stands out for so many people because, in the cycling community, it's not a common thing, right? It's like
Not,
slang.
yeah, it's definitely not common at all.
Yeah, so I think about that and I think about I was looking at your social pages and I saw that you guys are at like 6K followers. You had mentioned
Yeah, it's crazy.
is wild. I'm looking at them like, and it's only been a year. Um,
Hmm.
and you mentioned that you have about like 100 cyclists out with you now, almost every
I
week.
mean,
Or was that just last?
last weekend we had about 100, but if I were to take a tally, like that's one of the things that plagues us is that when people ask me, I just guesstimate like it's hundreds or possibly thousands of people because people come and go.
Yeah,
There's no membership. I'm not tracking actual numbers, right? But on any given Sunday night, it could be 100 plus easy.
yeah, that's wild. That is like
Yeah.
that's wild. For something that started last year, right, during the
Hmm.
pandemic. So yeah, I find so much inspiration in that, and I'm hoping that like, the community finds inspiration in your journey. So maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about how you got started, maybe some background on like how you grew up. You said you're from
Yeah.
Scarborough,
Yeah.
you
Boop,
know?
boop, boop.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So born and raised in Scarborough, South Morningside to be exact. Um, I grew up in the burbs, so I'm not actually from like the hood or from a block. So my upbringing, it was actually pretty common for us to have bikes as kids and ride around and be safe and stuff like that. But that was just when I was a kid. I think maybe my early 20s, late teens, I kind of let that bike stuff go and just started to drive or take transit to get around, right?
Hmm.
Um, Fast forward to the pandemic, I was pretty down, like you saw what's going on. Like they're killing black people on TV and like
Yeah.
people around me were losing jobs, friends or family members, like they were dying from COVID or just a bunch of negativity, And I was literally going to work, coming home, and then once I would eat dinner, I would just like immerse myself in like Twitter and like Instagram, just looking at clips of like different people's footage of all the bad stuff that was happening around the world. And I was just like, I was in a dark place. I was in a dark place. I was gaining weight. I just wasn't my normal self. And I just had this random idea to get a bicycle. And I come from a background where, I usually play basketball on Sunday nights, maybe go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. So when those things were all taken away from me, um, like many others around North America or the world for that matter, bicycle became like a popular choice. So I just randomly texted one of my boys and I was like, yo, would you ever get a bike again?
Hmm.
He was like, yeah. And from there, like we just started to look, and a couple weeks later, we both had our bikes.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you saw this post, but on my personal Instagram, there's a post from last June where I'm just like being pretty vulnerable, sharing my truth. Like, hey, like I was feeling down. I bought this bike. I'm hoping it makes me feel better, etc., etc. And the comments were flooded with people from like different jobs, different schools, whatever. Yo, I got a bike too. We should link. Da, da, da. Like it was like flooded with people that had bikes. So I just said it as a joke. I was literally sitting on the sofa And I was like, I have a bike, so and so has a bike, this guy has a bike, Mandem Cycling Club, haha. Like
Yeah.
I said it, I said it in jest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't some like some mastermind, like some idea I had and I wrote it down. Like I was literally playing video games and I just spit it out.
Hmm.
And my girl who was there at the time, she was like, "What's so funny? You should do that." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Mandem Cycling Club? That's dumb. Like, why would Mandem Cycling Club? That's the stupidest idea." And then maybe 10, 15 minutes later, she comes back. She's like, "You know what? You always have these ideas. You second guess yourself. You have nothing to lose. Open the Instagram right now, you know?" And like, I'm a Capricorn and I like a challenge, you know? So I can't let people bad me up like that. So I
Yeah.
just said, okay. And I opened the account. And then people followed. And the very first ride was literally myself and like 7 of my boys and 1 stranger. And I put the pics on the Instagram the following day, and people are like, "Yo, what is this?
Hmm.
What is this?" And then it just snowballed from there. So the next week, so I started with 7, following week 15, then I had 30, and just continued to grow. And now a year later, here we are.
Yeah, here we are, like 6K followers, like
Yeah,
lots of press on you, right? It's a
yeah,
pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. I love how your partner at the time was telling you just, like
yeah.
stop doubting yourself.
Hmm.
When you and I were talking yesterday, we talked about that, the creative journey, and you might be sitting there on the couch and you're like, yeah, Mandem, that's stupid, like whatever, whatever. But like that's how the inspo usually comes, right? It's like
Yeah.
that moment you're kind of maybe not even engaged, it just like creeps in and you're like, oh, okay, I could entertain that for a minute, and
Hmm.
you kind of feel stupid when you say it out loud and you start to doubt yourself and all of that stuff. So I think it's pretty dope that you had somebody around you to reinforce you, and that you had like so many of your mandem in your circle, just like supporting you and being like, yeah, yo, let's ride, let's go out and do that. I think that
Hmm.
not everybody has that kind of support around them when it comes to their
For sure.
creativity, you know?
And one thing I want to highlight is just as you mentioned, like a lot of my boys roll with me, and typically when you're with a group of friends and you guys are all pretty much on the same page, and one of you wants to veer off into something else, or something else is kind of piquing your interest, it's pretty common that you leave your friends behind. Like you kind of drift off into your own wave,
Hmm.
and go and kind of go off on that lone arduous journey. But
Yes.
like all my dogs rolled with me. It was so crazy. It was so crazy. Like even like over the course of the last year, even though there was that core group of guys that bought in early, like a lot of my other friends that had I would never imagine them on a bike. Like I would never imagine are buying bikes and are sending me links like, "Oh, what do you think about this helmet?" And they're buying in, so they're seeing it as a viable way to kind of stay and fit and to decompress. And it's been pretty cool to watch.
Honestly, like, thank you for sharing that, because I think
Yeah.
like my personal journey and just friends that I have too, who, when you kind of break away in your interests, because those bonds are built around common interests most of
Hmm.
the time. It's like, or common personality and stuff like that, that identity piece. So it's like, we talked about this too, where it's kind of like um, your identity is shaped by the community and the things that you do, and when that shifts, your surrounding shift, the people in your
Hmm.
life shift, and maybe there's like a disconnect because you don't get each other anymore, or the
Hmm.
way that we spend time is not the same anymore, and maybe even if I introduced you, you're not really down. So I think that is actually, again, super cool that you have people
Yeah.
around you that were open-minded and just like, yo, let's do this together. You kind of led the way for that, and I think that, yeah, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people wish to have that moment. And when there are instances where people just like go off on their own because they have to, because
Yeah.
sometimes not everybody can hang, and that's okay too. That's definitely
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's definitely an okay, and honestly, that's probably more normal than my experience.
Yeah.
Like I'm very lucky, and like when I say like our lives have shifted, not just the bike, but even just perception of how we see life in general. So like as you know, the community is very diverse.
Hmm.
I have people of all different races, different backgrounds, different sexual orientation,
Hmm.
lots of things that typically, and you understand as a Black person, like
Hmm.
we have lots of limitations on what can go on and what's not permitted, right?
Hmm.
So to see my friends go on this journey with me, and to have, gay people come to my rides and like roll with me and my friends, or non-binary or binary people come to my rides, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And we all get along because we're not there on no, these are my beliefs kind of thing. Like, you throw your beliefs out the door. Like, the only thing you need to believe in is like your bicycle, and like that's what,
Can
like,
we see
pay,
that? The
pay.
only thing you need to believe is the bicycle and the Mandem.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
real talk. So it's been fun to watch people's perception shift, not only in terms of embracing cycling as a means of physical activity, but just in terms of how we interact with people from our community that we typically wouldn't be in the same room with or wouldn't hang out with. Now you're with them every week for hours at a time. It's been pretty crazy to see.
And it's powerful because, like, you were talking about the pandemic and everything that was happening racially,
Hmm.
economically, um, physically, with our health. Just like I feel like every dimension of our lives was being challenged, uprooted, and pitted against each other in different
For
ways, right?
sure.
Like, especially on that racial level. And even today, like, there's a lot of tension around sexual orientation and, people's ability to express themselves however they want in that way, or, people still being confused about language and not really giving others grace for learning, So
Yeah.
there's just so much going on and it's kind of messy. And I've always said, like, or just believed that, there, if we all just had an opportunity to, like, connect in spaces in a different way, not in work, because I think there's still so much structure to work and not in
Yeah, there is.
a way that allows you to, like, put your boundaries down and, just like show up authentically, not really caring so much about anything because it's not about one upping or my identity intersecting this way to give me XY benefit. It's about like the play, the task at hand. And so that's why I think it's really dope that you mentioned that piece about how diverse it is, how inclusive it is. And I think what's even cooler is that that happens so organically.
It happened organically, and for it to happen like in cycling is probably like, I got very lucky. Like, I started Mandem at a time where, not only in cycling but in general, like in workplaces and just communities in general, like diversity and inclusion was like the soup du jour. Like that was like the talk track. Everybody was trying to prove and promote diversity. Lots of big companies were, changing their display picture on social media, or they were putting up posts like, this is our stance on this, whatever. But you may or may not agree with me, but a lot of that was performative.
Of course,
Like they were just doing it to be perceived as, trending in the right direction. But then behind the scenes, like, were they really making the right moves?
yeah.
And then on the flip side, I'm actually doing the work, but not like intentionally. Like, I'm just living, and things are just unfolding in a way where it's exhibiting, best practices without having to make a lengthy statement or change my profile picture or anything like that. I was actually just saying, you know what, come through, I come as you are, and people really embraced it. And specifically in cycling, where when you think about a cycling club, like, tell me, when you think about a cycling club, right? What
Don't put me on the
tell me what they are. No,
spot.
this high level, right? Like, high level. Like, when you think about a cycling club, like, what are the things that come to mind? Be
Uh,
honest.
honestly, like when I am even just walking a path or jogging, near my house, I always see white men or Asian men
Hmm.
on a bike. I don't see, but predominantly white heterosexual
Yeah.
male. Like
Hmm.
that's the figurehead for this.
Right. And that's the talk track that I received from a lot of people.
Hmm.
When, like, during the first 4 or 5 weeks of Mandem, I probably had half a dozen people come to me and say, you know, it's crazy to see a cycling club that's not led by middle-aged white guys.
Hmm.
Or not even that, but even just from an attire standpoint, that we're a club, but you don't have to wear the jersey, you don't have to wear the lycra suit, you don't have to have the fancy bike. Like, just rent a bike from the city if you want. Like, just come, literally come as you are. Doesn't matter how fast you are. Like, we're not here for performance. We're more social, if anything, than the actual biking. Like, the cycling, if anything, is just a vehicle that we use as we spend our time together, but it's more of a social experience.
Hmm.
So um to start Mandem as a joke and to fall into this gaping hole that existed in the cycling community and to flourish. Like it was just perfect timing. And again, there is no case study done on my end to
Mhm.
analyze the cycling landscape and get an idea of, you know, what's missing.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just more like I'm riding my bike with my dogs and I'm posting on Instagram, and then it kind of just fit into the sweet spot
Mhm.
that was missing for a long time, and a lot of people have embraced it, and a lot of different disciplines in cycling have been able to come to my rides and not really feel like they don't belong, because that's typically what happens if you were to say try to join one of the existing clubs. And again, nothing against them because they do fit their niche, and I'm very cool with them. They've shown me nothing but love since I've joined this culture or this new world, right?
Mhm.
But they serve a specific purpose. Like they're riding to train, they're riding to race, they're riding to compete, and we're not doing any of that. Like we're replicating that same feeling of riding your bike with your friends when you're a kid. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you're linking up, you're gonna go eat some food, you're gonna go chill by the water, you're gonna do XYZ, and then you're gonna go home. And
Yeah.
I just keep it as simple as that, and people just they love it, and the numbers don't lie. You know, I'm not really a person to
Yeah.
like gas up myself or
Yeah.
toot my horn about the progress, but like, you know, like to again to start last year, to be like a year and a couple of weeks removed from the very first post, and to be near 6K followers, and to be in Canadian Cycling Magazine, and to have all the accolades that the club has received, it's telling that, you know, it was something that the community needed, and that cycling is deeper than just that one pocket of those elite performers.
Yeah. Honestly, so needed. And again, you didn't have to do all this research to like assess your audience and like, SWOT analysis and
Yeah.
like let me create a customer consumer profile and, just all of that work that I think sometimes trips us up when it comes to creating things, like
Hmm.
just creating Jada culture. Like, yeah, I definitely got stuck in my own rabbit hole of that, of trying to figure out my audience and figure out these things. And I just had to like scale it back um, to where you started. And it was just like,
Hmm.
what feels good to me and like
Exactly.
what's gonna bring peace and joy and fun and what do I love and like just everything that makes you feel good. Um, and just following that, so I think it's really important, because I know that a lot of people in the community that I've spoken with, um, that's where they get tripped up, they
Yeah.
get tripped up overthinking the process, overthinking the execution, overthinking creating that product, that service, that platform, that song, that art piece, that
Hmm.
whatever it is that speaks to people's souls, and just like the overall need that we need as humans, which is to like feel like we belong, to feel like we find our identity, like we feel like seen, heard, and like we're here. So
Hmm.
I think that's what I love the most about your journey, is how authentic it was and how it wasn't intentional. And I really just want to pinpoint that piece. Um, you were talking about some of the accolades that you had received, press.
Hmm.
You had some interviews done, and Nike is shouting you out, gifting you
Yeah, that
some
was crazy.
swag. So how are you navigating all of that? Like it must have been a shock to you to kind of, wake up and start to have people reach out to you and you're just like, damn, like, yeah, like is
Yeah.
this life? Like tell me about that. How did you navigate that? What were you feeling?
It was challenging because I've been a pretty low key individual, you know, like typically I'm not posting on social media unless I'm going on vacation
Hmm.
or I'm eating something that might make somebody jealous that I'm eating it, you know, like I wasn't really active showing my life and being that accessible,
Hmm.
right? So to stumble on this bike life and for the community to grow to where it was, like, I'll be honest, and I've told this story before, there was maybe after the third week where the numbers were just so high that I was low key scared. Like, yo, what is going on? Like, I did not. This is not what I wanted. Like, this
Hmm.
was supposed to be something for me and my dogs to stay fit. Like, that's it. Like, me and mine. You know, 6, 7 of us every weekend touch road, go out for a couple of hours, go home. So
Hmm.
the second week, I had 4 women show up for the first time, and then that's when that was cool because it was like a person who I've known from the past that we reconnected on the bike thing, and
Hmm.
she brought 3 of her female friends or women friends. I apologize.
Hmm.
And by the third week, I had 40 people, and that's when I got shook. I was like, "Listen, there's 40 people waiting for me now, and it's going up and up and up. Like I need to shake this up because this is not what I wanted. So I tried to play with the schedule to discourage people from coming, and they still showed up. So after those feeble attempts to to make it not to make it not as appealing,
Mhm.
I just let go and enjoy the ride. And that's something for me that I've typically never done. I'm a very analytical person. I'm a crazy overthinker. I'm very process and detail oriented. So to let go
Mhm.
and just be like, yo, listen, this is taking a life of its own. You can be a coward and shut it down and make it intimate again just for you and your friends in like a text group chat, or you can just let it rock,
Mhm.
and when people are like complete strangers giving you positive feedback on what's going on, I just kept on going. And it just felt weird because I was in a leadership position when I wasn't a subject matter expert.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So think about different places where you've worked, and you know there could be somebody on your team who like knows everything, and you can lean on that person more than your manager almost, right?
Yep.
Or even being on a work setting where your manager is your primary point of contact, but they don't know anything,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And I've been in those situations, and that was uncomfortable for me to be this leader of this like bike movement and not really know much about bikes aside from just get on, pedal, and balance yourself, right?
Oh, man.
and then and then even just navigating Toronto in terms of like the bike trails and the system that exists, I wasn't very well versed. So I was literally just exploring with people and kind of hoping for the best situations.
Mhm.
So that was tough for me to let go. But then when I did, that's when everything opened up. That's when the community grew exponentially larger. That's when the media stuff started happening. And it was tough, but I wouldn't change it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
I didn't do it for the gram. So like, yeah, the 6,000 followers and all the likes and the comments and all that stuff. Yeah, it's fun to interact with people in that aspect, but I didn't do it for the shine. Like I did it just again for myself. I lost 30 pounds last summer. So that was like that to me was more rewarding
Yep.
than all the other stuff. As great as it was, like I literally got on this journey for myself and it
Mhm.
worked. So I'm just kind of like spreading that gospel now to people. Like, listen, the bike life is it's a thing. Like it can help you not just physically but mentally, emotionally as well.
Mhm.
And it just took some time for me to really just sit back and just like enjoy it,
Mhm.
but once I did that, everything just unfolded very nicely for me.
Mhm. Did you ever have moments where you felt impatient with yourself and like, you said you had to learn trails and you didn't know this stuff and
Hmm.
maybe felt like, I'm the leader and I don't know enough. Like, were you ever impatient with yourself?
There were times where I was putting unnecessary pressure on myself, um, because I felt like I had to live up to a certain level of like knowledge or expertise
Hmm.
in order to proceed. But luckily for me, I met a lot of people that became part of the core group of the club.
Hmm.
And a lot of those people were people that had been riding for a very long time. They knew their way around the city. They knew which roads had a bike lane. They knew which ways were safer, which ones were lit, So sharing that knowledge with me definitely helped.
Hmm.
But I also put pressure on myself from a creativity standpoint because in Toronto, a lot of them bike lanes and bike routes are focused on the downtown core, and that's pretty much where the majority of our rides were. I had one or two rides in Scarborough, but everything else was along the lake. And I
Hmm.
was putting some pressure on myself to play with the route or try to get creative with the schedule or stuff like that. And then that pressure at a certain point, I was like, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
Like I had to have that talk with myself, like, why are you putting all this pressure to like make it cooler when you did all this already with like zero expectation and zero effort?
Hmm.
So once I stopped doing that and just said, listen, this is what it is, this is what we're doing, and you can roll or you don't have to roll, and just broke it down to that granular level, like this is for me and my friends. I don't really care who comes. Like I want people to come, I want the community to grow, I want people to enjoy it, but at the end of the day, if you took it all away and it was just my friends and me, I'd be perfectly fine with that,
Hmm.
right? So I just had to like have that talk with myself and take that pressure away, and then just enjoy that journey. And then over time, yeah, like you're gonna ride more, you're gonna go through some more experiences, you're gonna learn more about your bike, you're gonna learn more about the different bikes that are available, the different styles, the different brands, et cetera, et cetera. And like that knowledge just came over time. So I'm definitely a different person now than I was last year, from a knowledge standpoint, from a physical standpoint, emotional standpoint. But that just came with me just letting go and just enjoying things for what they were.
Oof. Come with the gems. Okay, what really stands out for me is the piece about letting go, aka surrendering.
Yeah.
I was listening to a pretty dope podcast last weekend, and I just shared this episode with all my friends because it was on surrendering, and I don't remember the name of the podcast or the speaker at the moment, unfortunately, but the speaker was just speaking about the importance of letting go and allowing life to blow your mind, allowing life
Hmm.
to teach you and move through you and like, kind of make the thing happen for you. And for some people that might sound woo woo-y or like hyper, like so spiritual or like whatever, but
Yeah.
I think there's some truth in it because I hear the truth in what you're saying, and it's the same
Hmm.
truth for me. It's like let go, let God, let go, let life,
Yeah.
let go, just let everything flow through you and don't overthink it. And it goes right back to the things that you were saying in the beginning, right? Like everything that I'm hearing, like that seems to be the through line in,
Hmm.
whether you're uh, adapting to the buzz and the hype that's coming around the community, whether you're adapting to just like your own process and navigating how to program and how to promote this and just within yourself, like how you're navigating your own fitness and wellness journey and the changes that happen there for you. So I
Hmm.
think that that's a huge takeaway. Just, what happens to us when we let go? What can happen to us
Hmm.
when we just let go and stop overthinking it? So yeah, that for me, that hits me. I felt that one.
I
And
want to piggyback on the surrender topic before we
go
switch,
for it.
because
Yeah. Roll.
you'll likely agree or with what I'm saying, but women, in my opinion, are more known for their capacity to be vulnerable people and beings,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's usually the men who have to maintain a certain, mystique or prestige, and it's difficult to be vulnerable. And oddly enough, like on the whole Mandem journey, made it known off the rip, like I got a bike, I just got it, this is new to me,
Mm-hmm.
and people gravitated towards that transparency,
Wow.
right? So I didn't. So that's when I kind of shed that pressure off of my shoulders, where I felt like I needed to spend hours after work every evening immersing myself in bicycle 101 so that I can be this guy. But I didn't have to be that person. I could eventually be that person, 4 or 5 years from now. But in that moment, people respected the fact that I was honest and said, you know what? I don't know shit about bikes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just got it. Right. And even when there's a situation last summer where my bicycle broke,
Mm-hmm.
I got in a little crash. I was fine. And my bicycle broke. And I remember I was on the lake shore and I went on Instagram live. And it was the day that I was supposed to have a ride that evening.
Oh,
Right. So it was the afternoon. I was just out enjoying the weather and my bike went left. And I remember I went on Instagram live and I panicked. I was like, guys, we can't, the ride's canceled. My bike's
no, you
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, guys, the ride's canceled. My bicycle's broke. Look at this, and I'm flipping the camera, and I'm showing, I don't know what's going on, and I'm like losing my shit because at that point you have to understand, like that bicycle provided me with so much. Like there's an emotional attachment to
yeah,
that bike,
yeah,
right? Like I was riding it 2 or 3, sometimes 4 times during the week, back to back Saturday and Sunday, and then it breaks, and it crushed me.
yeah.
And then I made it such a big stink about it just to have the more experienced cyclist message me in my DM, be
Yeah.
like, don't worry, buddy, that part's worth $20,
What? And you're like,
right?
oh, okay, I'm gonna calm down.
Yeah, and that's what happened. I was like, hey guys, so just so you know, it's a $20
Oh my
piece,
God.
but I'll be back next week, whatever, right? So like that's like a running joke with like my friends, like, yo, remember that time your bike broke and you were crying on Instagram? You know, so it's like,
Gosh.
right? But like
Yeah.
people respected it, right? And like that was a teachable moment for other new cyclists as well. So like I just stopped putting up this pressure to be this macho bike person
Yeah.
and was just super honest and said, listen, I don't know much about bikes and live vicariously through me, learn through my trials and errors.
Mhm.
And literally anything that went bad with the bike or anything that happened, anything I learned, I just made sure to share that on the page because again, we were a gateway for a lot of new cyclists. There's lots of people that similar to myself just got a bike last summer because of the pandemic and that was the drip, right?
Mhm.
And they appreciated and respected the fact that I was not fronting like I'm a know-it-all and I was sharing those moments. So surrendering to that pressure to be the man and to just say, you know what, this is who I am, this is what it is, take it or leave it, and it paid dividends.
Ooh, see, I like that. That's like a real tangible example.
Yeah, yeah.
You're having this moment where you're spazzing out on IG Live, and then I was thinking back to what you were saying about, just feeling so much pressure to perform and, do this the right way and program and be creative and doing these things. Did you find that as Mandem was growing, that the pressure came in from social media or from like, society's expectations or ideas, or just the way it's portrayed online, like the way success is portrayed, the way that brands are portrayed, the way that,
Hmm.
personas are portrayed. Like, did you find pressure because of that?
To be honest with you, I didn't really feel a lot of pressure from the creative standpoint. I would consider myself to be a pretty creative person,
Mm-hmm.
more with words than visual.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I do have the ability to be pretty creative. And luckily for me, like my best friend, who's like the vice president, who is the vice president, not like he is the vice president. Um, he's a very well respected graphic designer in the city. His name is Darky. So from a visual standpoint, when I was making flyers, he would be like, "Yo, that's not straight," or "You have to balance this out," or
Mm.
even just from like how I would be posting stuff or on like my stories or resharing stuff.
Mhm.
Like we started to add a bit of flair to that and created a format where it's very consistent. So when you came on my Instagram story, like last year, for example, you would go through my slides on my story and
Mhm.
like our logo would be in the bottom right corner every time, like stamp,
Mm.
like a stamp,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a seal of authenticity almost.
Yep.
And we would have different colors for different months, and we would just kind of stay consistent with having that stamp in the bottom corner. And like people mess with it. Like I just had a couple bike stores like, "Yo, your social media game is on point."
Mhm.
And you're talking to a guy that wasn't really active on social media. I was just kind of thinking like, what would I think would look cool, and like what would my boy think would look cool, and just kind of leading in that, right?
Mhm.
But from a pressure standpoint, this might sound a little bit weird to you,
Yeah.
but I felt pressure from the existing or established cycling community because my format didn't fit the norm of what a cycling club is,
Mhm.
right? So a typical cycling club, they would be registered with like Ontario Cycling Association. They
Mhm.
would have like a website. They would have there's a certain like method to how
Standard. Yeah.
yeah, like right. And I wasn't doing any of that. And then not only that, but we were a bunch of ragtag cyclists, like just a bunch of randoms from different places.
Mhm.
So once I got some negative feedback from some of the established cyclists about like, oh, you're not even this or you're not that, like that actually fueled me.
I
So
like
like, so like,
that.
right? Because I was like, oh, you're getting cheese seeing this
Yeah. Okay.
club.
Say
Okay,
less. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
watch next week now.
Yeah.
Like that inspired me to kind of just keep on going. So
Yeah.
when the numbers started to grow and it wasn't really fitting into a mold, like I've had experienced cyclists who've been riding their bike in the city for decades tell me what you're doing has never been done here. Like maybe it's been done in other places, but Toronto's never seen it.
Mhm.
So for it to grow to where it's grown, and then within the first month and a half, expand where we have the women's like extension now, the Galdem, where it's the women's only rides,
Wow.
and like they had their first ride, and it was like probably 100 women on bikes. Like the city's never seen it. So as much as people were like dissing or like thinking like, oh, you're not this, you're not that, or whatever, there was a crazy like counter energy to that, where it's like, yeah, you guys have been doing it this way for so long, but guess what? We're moving like this. And
Mm-hmm.
then a lot of people are like, whoa, that okay, I want to do it this way,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that pressure that I had initially to was to conform,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a student of hip hop music, right? So hip hop music is anti-conform. Like
Yes.
they're jacking music from other genres. They're
Yep.
flipping it. They're saying controversial things. The imagery is portraying certain things that typically wouldn't be glorified, or whatever the case may be. So like I kind of just looked at us as like we're like the hip hop version of cycling, and like I actually embed like hip hop culture a lot
Mm-hmm.
in the energy of the ride. So when I'm posting the flyers, I'm finding the tracks that have a nice beat to kind of set the tone for the vibe.
Yeah.
I'm using lots of imagery that looks cool. Like I'm taking stuff that, like, if you go on the page and look at
I
some of the
know.
pics, like,
Yeah.
right, like a lot of those pics could be like a cycling mixtape cover.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that should be future programming if it's not already.
It might be,
Okay.
but we just talked about not putting pressure on ourselves,
Yes,
right?
yes, this is true. This is true. But just let the gem drop and the idea flourish, like, you know?
Yeah, so I just kind of just looked at what I like. Like I like hip hop music, I like arts and culture, I like events,
Mm-hmm.
and I like food. I just kind of took all those things and just kind of found how I can make a bridge to cycling with that, and then kind of just created what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And that pressure is non-existent anymore. So to be here in year 2 now, I look at last year as just like a trial run.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year was just like hit or miss. We're gonna do this day. Every week was like 1 week at a time type of thing.
Yeah.
And how whatever happens, happens. So I was able to see like, oh, people really like Sunday evenings.
Mm-hmm.
Like Saturday mornings are cool, Sunday mornings are cool, but I get a draw when it's Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I committed. I told everybody like Sunday nights is our jam. Like we're doing Sunday nights all summer.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then, like for example, tomorrow we're doing a Saturday morning, but we're doing Sunday nights all summer
Awesome.
because that's what the people liked, right? And I'm even in a place now where like I can think ahead, where what day is it today? July
Nice.
9th?
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about our ride on the 24th,
Wow. Yeah.
right? Where last year it was more like ride on the weekend, and then I would put pressure myself between Monday and Thursday to figure out what we're doing next, and then feel like I need to put up a flyer by Thursday at noon, or it's gonna be. But now like everything's like in slow motion because I've already lived through it 1 year and I know what's expected of me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very easy now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm like, where do I go from that? Like, again, like you say so much that I'm just like, hold on. Okay, which piece is most important here?
uh,
All of it, truly. I think I want to focus in a little bit on what you said about reading your community and
hmm,
knowing your community, and when do they show up and what do they like, and um, also just like bringing in your passions and the things that you love into creating that space, that culture, that energy, that the community loves so much. Are you thinking about, I guess, just like being more intentional with the programming and things like that? Because I know you said that like in year 1 it was really just impromptu. I'm figuring it out as I go. Um,
hmm.
how are you being a little bit more intentional with it this year?
Yeah. So one piece, as I mentioned previously, was the scheduling aspect,
Hmm.
because I would get a lot of DMs. Like, so like I would have a ride the next day, I would post a recap, and then I would get flooded with DMs last
Hmm.
year. Like, when's the next ride? When's the next ride? When's the next ride? And I had a pressure on myself where like I had to like, again, I come from a customer service marketing background, and it's like I know how important experience is, right? So when somebody's sending a message to my inbox, I feel compelled to respond,
Hmm.
right? And then I didn't realize till like maybe like this off season, where it's like I need to communicate as clearly as possible on the page and be intentional with the information I'm sharing to
Hmm.
minimize the questions, because people are asking questions because there's gray area, or because there's ambiguity, right? So the schedule is Sunday nights now. Everybody knows, so now people are a bit more chill. They
Hmm.
just know like by Thursday, I'm gonna tell you where it's gonna be, but it's gonna be on Sunday night,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I can say that I've uh I've had to be a bit more intentional with has been like the routes. Like I've had to take into consideration that the community is growing. There's going to be a lot new cyclists. As much as myself, I've kind of taken a crazy leap in my first year where when I first got the bike, I couldn't ride 2 blocks, and then within 3 months, like I rode to Niagara Falls,
Yeah.
which is crazy to think about, right? And but now it's like, as much as I've advanced, I have the ability to leave my house randomly on a Saturday morning and go ride for 70 kilometers like it's nothing.
Mhm.
There's still people that are in that infantile stage that I have to accommodate to, because I can't say we're inclusive, and then I go through a glow up and then I kind of forget who I was initially.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like being a sellout.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year, oh, I started this cycling club. We're for everybody.
Followers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I get on TV, 6,000 followers. My bike game improves, and
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, we only ride 50 kilometers now. Sorry, guys. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I've had to communicate that as well. So it, it's it's hard to say exactly like where it's going to go in the future. Like
Mhm.
I feel like if I'm really going to be inclusive, I'm going to have to eventually, accommodate the people that have leveled up a little bit and maybe mix in skill level rides and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's for down the road. Right now, I'm just still having fun, still admiring the fact that there's people at our big age that are getting back on a bicycle after years,
Yes.
and like they might not be as blessed as I was with friends that are down to do it. So they might just be, a lot of the people that come to my ride are like last week, for example, they came for the first time by themselves.
Mm.
So like I'm not going to sit here and assume that they don't have friends. I'm pretty sure they do have friends, but
Yeah.
for whatever reason, like they had to come through solo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm respecting their journey as well, and hoping I can kind of share like my experiences that from last year with them, so that they can level up as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great leadership, honestly. Like
Thank you.
leadership and customer service. Like, no, like I think it's important. Like that's how you know that you're doing what you love, or like you found your sweet spot. For me, this is how I see it when I look at other people who find their sweet spot. It's like
Hmm.
this intersection between all of their passions, the things that they love. You're able to bring in the music, the food, events, community, people, Mandem, like, just all of that stuff. But then also like the core skills that you maybe can take away from your work experience, the things that
Right.
you learn there, like it still makes sense and it kind of feeds in seamlessly. Like I think there's like, for me, that's what I'm noticing this recipe to be, if you will, where it's
Yeah.
like you have to find this intersection, because then all
Hmm.
parts of you feel satisfied and utilized and contributing to, this thing. And our psyches are weird, and like humans are complex, beautiful but complex. So it's I think like when you're able to satisfy all of those desires and something like that, I think it's really cool. um I think about, sustainability as
Hmm.
a young brand and community. Um, just working on my own stuff, like you said, where it's like I was planning it and like we'd have the ride on Sunday, and then, I'm stressing the whole week, and you're playing catch up with content and all of this stuff, and you're working, after hours. Um, did you experience burnout at all? Do you kind of have an idea for how you will, I don't know, avoid it or like prevent burnout and prevent losing that spark and connection to this when it continues to grow and maybe not become so fun?
Yeah. When I think about last year in particular, so I'll be a bit vulnerable and transparent with you right now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
about a month into Mandem, the relationship that I was in ended,
Hmm.
right? And that was like right before it started to take off. Like literally, like she moved out, and then the following week is like when things start to like, not to say that that was cause and effect. It's just the timing, right? But
Okay, okay.
that's a different conversation. That's a different
Okay.
conversation,
Because
right?
people do say things like that. You let something
Yeah,
go only for something else to come in.
yeah.
Like, okay, no
We
shade.
could have that conversation on the ones.
Okay.
But it happened. So everything started to take off so fast where I never even had an opportunity to like process the fact that the relationship that I was in for 3.5 years is over,
Mm.
right? And it was just I was just on this bike high, and it's not that I got burned out, but it just occupied so much of my time that I
Mhm.
never even had a moment to like really be sad or down about that significant change in my life.
Yeah.
Right. So by the time I got to like, season's over, like late September, October, and I'm in that winter period where I'm able to like sit back and like relax, it wasn't until then where I was like, whoa, you were going ham on this
Mm.
Mandem stuff. Like you were like, it wasn't until like a weekend came where I didn't have to plan anything
Mhm.
that I really had that ability to like take an inventory of how much time and effort and dedication was put into cultivating that community.
Mhm.
So as much as the community is built by the people that are there, like I had to put a lot of energy to attract them. And again, it wasn't intentional. It was just more like going with the flow, but it still took up a significant amount of my time. Like I have a job. Like I have a space that I have to clean and do dishes and
Yeah.
right. So it's like
Reality of balancing work, your passion project community, cleaning
mhm,
your house, going
yeah,
grocery shopping. If you're trying to be badass, do a meal prep, make some smoothies,
hmm,
and juice. Like, you know,
yeah,
sometimes I sit back and I say to people, I'm like, I'm exhausted come Sunday that I feel like I need another day just preparing for my week ahead to get into
hmm,
it. So, yeah, oh my gosh, I feel you.
yeah. So that's what it was. And then it wasn't until last fall, winter, where and again, even before that, because there was a couple of times last summer where there were some media requests that came my way and some
Mhm.
stuff, and some of them required it to be me. It was about the club, and they wanted to talk to me. But
Mhm.
there's some other stuff where I had the luxury of being able to like give some other people some shine, you know. So there's some people that I met last year who became uh, friends with me, where I was able to be like, "Yo, do you want to talk to the Toronto Star about cycling?" Or "Yo, do you want to be on this podcast or whatever?" And I was able to kind of
Awesome.
offload a lot of that pressure. Like I didn't like, oh, I have to do it all the time because I really didn't,
Yeah.
you know. So now going into this year now, where it's like it's a bit more, it's new and improved. Like we're doing merch this year, we're
Mhm.
doing some other things, and I'm able to work with people. I don't have to do everything by myself. Like the bike rides itself doesn't require a lot of effort now because I already have a year of experience. I know what it requires. I know what resources I need to plan it, and it's really easy for me to put it together. But
Mhm.
everything else, I now have the ability to use the people around me to support me. So as much as Mandem is me, and everybody knows that I run it, and the story on that page, and will continue to be through my perspective, I
Mhm.
have a lot of people around me that are helping me make it look as cool as it looks, you know? So when you talk about the burnout piece, I don't feel like I'm burning out this year. This year, so far, it's been pretty chill.
Good.
It's been pretty chill. Last year, this time, I was panicking. I was putting all this pressure on myself to be able to be at a certain level. But
Yeah.
all of those teachings put me in a position now where I'm a bit more cognizant of what I'm managing, and I'm aware of the skills of the people that are around me, and I'm letting them participate a bit more because you start something, it's your baby, you're not really prepared to like give somebody else the keys.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really trying to give somebody else like too much power to do something. Well, last year at least, and I've had people reach out to me like, hey, if you need somebody to run your social media, I'll be your guy, or if you need this or if you need that. And I was I'm a Scarborough man, so
I got
I'm yeah. I don't know you. I
Yeah.
don't
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
I don't know you. I don't know you.
Wow, that is like on point. Yeah, only a
Right? Like,
Scarborough guy could say that. Yes.
yeah, like, why are you so friendly towards me? What are
Yeah.
you up to? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
So now that I have a year under my belt, I'm able to take an inventory to say, you know what, you're a real one. You're a real one. You've been supportive. You've always, you helped me out during these times,
Mhm.
and I'm able to kind of spread a little bit of the workload. So it's still like 90% me, but like some of those trivial things that require me to stop what I'm doing and like fully commit to something, I'm able to pass some of that on. And one thing that I'll say that has really made it easy for me um, to manage my workload and not get burned out is understanding and respecting the fact that I have the ability to say no.
Boundaries. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like last year, I felt compelled that I had this beautiful thing. And if anybody needed anything, I had the capacity to do it. Sure, what do you need from me? Oh,
Yeah.
you're oh, you want to do a podcast? Okay, yeah, yeah, I'll do it. And I was just like, bloop, 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 bloop,
Yep.
right? But now it's like I don't have if I don't have time, I don't have the time.
Yep.
You know, if they're not able to accommodate my schedule, I just simply don't do it. And
Yeah.
sure, those might have been some opportunities that I've passed up and may or may not have, you know, helped the club grow even further or given me a bit more notoriety, whatever the case may be. But I just constantly remind myself that I didn't start it for any of this.
Mm-hmm.
This was started from my friends and I to be in shape and to ride. And I've watched my friends go on a crazy journey with me, and it's been beautiful to watch. And that to me holds more weight than anything. So I don't really feel burnout coming, because I have that mentality now where it's like, if my 9 to 5 is busy and we're doing campaigns, like I work in a marketing agency, right? So if we're in a place where, you know, we're approaching a busy time of the year because we're working on some big projects.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to link me to do something, if I don't have the time, like I can tell them no.
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody who's established in the cycling community approaches me and says, hey Chris, I have an opportunity for you, whatever, I don't have to appease them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do certain things. Like I can literally say no and just do it the way that I want to do it. I don't have to live up to anybody's expectations because
Mm-hmm.
I've already exceeded my own.
Mm-hmm.
You get what
Wow.
I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if anybody looks at me and says, oh, you got like, in cycling clubs, it's very popular that a club has a jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It's like standard attire. And there's functions behind the jersey and why they wear them and stuff like that. But I've had a lot of people approach me like, oh, you should make a jersey. And I'm like, why would I make a jersey when 95% of people that ride with me don't wear jerseys, including myself?
Mm-hmm. Know your audience, know your community.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So as cool as it would be to have a jersey, like I have a lot of people who are like, you should never wear a jersey because it'll kill your whole aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, if you want to wear a cycling jersey, there's lots of places that sell them. Go cop one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But to have a Mandem one, like I totally said no this year. Like it could be something that we do in the future,
Yeah.
you
Maybe
know,
for
as like a
fun.
limited edition or like,
Exactly.
yeah, like 5-year anniversary, like
Yeah.
get it while it's hot type of
Yeah.
thing.
And it can still be a joke too. Like we're not wearing it though, but
Yeah. Buy this, but don't wear it. Like put it in a shadow
okay.
box on your wall, you know, like but yeah, so like I just really been really comfortable with what it is, what my purpose is behind it,
Mm-hmm.
what I want to do, what I don't want to do, what I'm trying to achieve. And if it doesn't fit in that, I just say no. And I might have burned some bridges, you know, but I've built many more,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I don't see myself getting burnt out anymore. Last year was a different conversation, but I'm in that sweet spot right
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that.
now.
Like I'm gonna title this gem dropper or something.
Mhm. Don't kill me.
Yeah, like you definitely came with lots of gems. I think I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, say no more.
Yeah. So for anybody in the community that is watching this and has thoroughly enjoyed the interview, and learning about the Mandem Cycling Club, where can they find you? How can they stay in touch? What do you have coming up? Like what should they be looking out for?
Yeah, for sure. So the club Mandem CC is on Instagram. You can also find us on Twitter with that same handle where I post the ride flyers and you can get notifications there.
Awesome.
My personal Instagram, 116 Morningside, like the bus route. Uh, you can find that on the club's bio as well. And then we're outside every weekend, at least once. So if you're a person that has a bike, even if you don't have a bike, you can rent a city bike for a couple of hours. Just come outside. Like we've been stuck inside for so long. We're a very open community, and I would welcome anybody who wants to get on a bike for a couple of hours to come outside, take in Toronto with us, and explore.
Yes, I'm coming. I have like
Yeah.
my bike tire, one of them keeps deflating. I don't know if you know those like invisible
Hmm.
holes that you just keep pumping it up and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
bike, I just filled it the other day.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna get that fixed and I'm going to join you. It is my promise. Like I'm really
I
excited. I
got you.
feel that
I'm gonna
energy.
hold you to
I'm here. Like I want to text
that.
Alicia. The summer's almost done, Alicia. Like let's go get that bike fixed.
Yeah.
But no, I got you. I'm definitely gonna show some love. So thank you for your energy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I'm so full. I'm so
Nice.
excited. And I hope that the community is able to just find the same inspiration that I did. So thank you,
I
Chris.
hope so too. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.